Alright, so today's call is on a walk-in cooler that was temping at 50 degrees. When I got here, the manager brought me in the walk-in and said that he came up to this thermostat and he thinks it was set at 50 degrees and he adjusted it down to 40 and it's maintaining temp now. He said he thinks someone turned it. I honestly know this place pretty well and I don't think they turned it. I think that you can see it's been hit. See, that bulb shouldn't be loose like that. And I honestly think that this thing has been getting hit by boxes. I just moved all the product. It was full of boxes right here. So we're gonna look into that, and then we're also gonna look at the big picture and evaluate the rest of the system. The evaporator coil is actually pretty clean. It's not iced up. I haven't gone onto the roof yet. We're gonna put some probes on it and go check everything up on the roof. This is an old R22 system. Baffles my mind. It's still running. Shows you how good the equipment was made back then. I mean, the coil looks deteriorated, but you know, I don't know. I don't know if it's leaking or not. We'll find out, but it definitely looks like it's been running. On these old systems too, you're lucky if you got a super heat port. This one doesn't have one, so you would have to pressure up upstairs and then get a temperature clamp down here. But everything looks pretty decent in here right now. I will say that I've got my thermometer and it still is running a little bit high. It's like we're about 44 degrees right now. So we'll have to jump up there and see what's going on. I went over here to this temperature controller. Remember, the manager said he turned it and it came down in temperature. Well, you can hear it. It's currently 45 degrees in this box. And this control is turning on and off at like 35. So this control's going bad. And like I said, this isn't a good indication. This thing's just been getting beat up. So we're still gonna go on the roof and check everything, but I bet you anything, this is the only cause. I believe we have a control that's been going bad. Sight glass is running clear. We're gonna put my gauges on it anyways. Looking good. Funny how this old equipment can last. This thing's still running its little heart away. So the refrigerant pressures are looking decent and the box temp is decent. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and replace that temperature controller, try to relocate it to a better place, because I think that's all that's wrong with it. So check this out. I decided to go with the mechanical control, okay, just because of ease of installation and I didn't have any SJ cord. And anyways, but I'm mounting the sensing bulb up in a place by the drain line where they can't stack food to beat the shit out of it, and there's no more coiled bulb on top for them to beat up, and I'm not going to put a knob in here, okay? But I was just getting finished putting the cover back on and I went to go adjust the temperature and I couldn't turn the temperature. It won't go past this point right here. It's like getting stuck. Okay, so here's the deal. This thing has got this little adjustment doohickey right there with that screw that you can adjust out and you can stop the temperature, like you can max it out, right? But that's not the case, okay? This is just one of those things I want to point out. Just because you put something in there and it don't turn, don't just force it, because you're going to break something, okay? Notice something. Look at my electrical wire on that top terminal, one closest to the dial. See how it moves? Because this is rigid wire, solid wire, it's hitting the dial, okay? So I'm not going to go, I got to go fix that wire, adjust it. But I'm just pointing out the fact that don't just go in there and start jerking on things, okay? Like I turned it, it didn't turn, and I stopped. What's wrong? I looked into it. I didn't just jam the thing down, because that could have been an electrical short, okay? So I loosened up the wire, and that's why you're seeing the wire move. I just wanted to prove that that's what it is. So I'm going to move that wire and fix it, and then finish up. And if you didn't already know, I've stripped my wire, okay? See those little holes on your wire strippers? Those are for curling wires. In case you didn't know, get that perfect electrician's curl on it. So the more you know. Do another one. Most of you guys probably know this, but for those that don't, just get yourself a little bit of wire sticking through there. Don't really work with solid strand or solid wire anymore, but not as much, but that'll work perfect. Now we can adjust it all the way to where we need, so we're good. Alright, so we are currently at 39 degrees, and I'm going to show you guys how to set these controls if you don't want to wait for it to come down to temp. What you do is listen for where it clicks. I don't know if you guys can hear that. You can just listen to see where it clicks. You always have to check these things because they're never completely accurate. So this one's turning on and off at what looks like about 32 degrees on the dial of the temperature controller, so we have to set it accordingly. So about 35 to maintain about 39 degrees in the box. That's about perfect. I'm going to turn it just a hair lower than 35. And now we were going to maintain 39. I have to be cautious. You need to know what you're working on because this system does not have a defrost clock. So the customer is pretty good about keeping their doors shut, so they'd rather go without a defrost clock unless they have to. So pay attention to that. So if you look at it right now, what you got to be cautious about, well, we don't have a pressure probe hooked up, but my suction pressure is below freezing right now, more than likely, so you got to be cautious about that, setting it too cold. So we want to make sure we just basically set it for about 39 degrees is what we want. And we'll try it again. Basically listen where it turns on and off at. And the higher temperature is going to be your set point. So it turns on there, turns off there. And it's 39 degrees in the box. So that's right where I want it to turn on at, is 39 degrees. So right there. That's it. So we'll tell the customer to keep an eye on it. So it's set for about 35 degrees on the dial of the temperature controller.
Okay, so nothing too difficult. This was just a service call on a walk-in cooler that wasn't working properly. When I arrived, I found that the thermostat had been kind of beaten up and it was not reading, it was way out of calibration, I should say. So I went ahead and replaced the thermostat, went ahead and put my service gauges on the unit. Everything looked good. Unit was running a clear sight glass. I don't know if you guys noticed in the video, this is an old system and it still has a flared TXV. I'm not a fan of the flared TXVs because I tend to see a lot of people don't understand how to tighten down a flare and how to properly torque it. It's kind of a new trend to be using the torque wrenches, which I think are a good thing, but you know, the old school way of tightening down a flare, you just kind of had to know when it was tight enough if you didn't have access to a torque wrench. And a lot of people over tighten the flares. And then what happens is when you over tighten the flare, it'll actually back itself off when you leave. And then it creates leaks and then it just kind of wreaks havoc. So my personal opinion is I really don't use flares on the evaporator sections. I'll use a flare up on the roof for the dryer and the sight glass because those ones don't tend to have as much expansion and contraction because of the cold temperatures down in the evaporator versus the warm temperatures up on the roof. So I will use them on the roof, but just not usually downstairs. And it's not that I can't adjust a flare to the right torque setting, but it's just that when we put them down in the evaporators, we get other people working on them and they tend to just be a problem and create more problems. So my experience is that I don't like to use them because of the lack of skill when it comes to tightening down on flares and knowing. It's one of those things where you've just done it enough that you know what the tightness is supposed to be. Anyways, I digress. So replace the temperature controller. I thought about going with a digital control, but because of ease of installation and I didn't have any SJ cord, I went ahead and went back in with a mechanical. I got rid of the coiled bulb, put a remote bulb, put it into a place where it can't get beat up, took the knob off of the temperature controller, and everything else checked out okay. All right, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my video. Please consider subscribing to my channel and also check out the other channels that are popping up right now. Other than that, I will see you guys on the next one, okay?